What is up, dudes? This is Cryptic here, and I'm bringing you a new gameplay. Now, I did promise you guys I would bring you guys a new game type. I've been doing a lot of hard points, so this one's going to be League Play, a CTF match on the map Express. I ended up going 61-3. This was against an actual four-man team, so they weren't solo players. And I ended up dropping double swarms and double dogs. And the fact that it was against a team is pretty cool. However, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I feel like they not really have thumbs, or they're just playing with their feet. One of the two, because it was it was kind of sad in my opinion. But I still feel good about myself because just so much can go wrong when you're working on a streak, because it is Call of Duty. So I was able to not choke anything and get them both twice. So you guys enjoy the gameplay. But what I want to focus on in this commentary is actually about fundamentals of competitive Call of Duty. And with that being said, there's a common misconception in the community that the biggest thing that competitive is about is gun skill, about winning gunfights. And while winning gunfights is a big deal, gun skill is not. It's actually probably the least most important thing for your fundamentals. There are so many more things that are much more important that if you do those things correctly, your gun skill, I mean, you can have one of the worst gun skills in the game and you'll still usually come out on top. Now, before Black Ops 2, there was never League Play, so everyone played public matches. Everyone has been always used to public matches. That's what Call of Duty has been known for. Now, with Black Ops 2 introducing League Play, a lot of pub players are now trying to switch over to League Play, switch over to competitive Call of Duty, and they're bringing their misconception of competitive Call of Duty with them, that this game is all about gun skill, and that is not true. Now, in pub matches, yeah, gun skill is very important. You can make a lot of fundamental mistakes, and if you have better gun skill than your opponents, you can still come out on top. But League Play and competitive, you have to work on things other than your gun skill, because there are going to be players out there with just the same, if not better, gun skill as you. And so you have to work on these other fundamentals to make you better than they are. I like to think that the biggest fundamental, the number one thing you need to work on is your awareness. No matter what is going on in the game, awareness is your most important fundamental that you have just got to work on. And if you don't have good awareness, I highly suggest you start practicing and try and start paying attention more, and just work on it. Because if you can get your awareness up there, you will notice that your game improves tremendously. Now, what I mean by awareness, probably the biggest and most easiest thing to work on is pay attention to your teammates in your minimap. This is not public matches. You don't have 6 people on your team. You have 4. So definitely pay attention to your minimap. Now, the arrows of your teammates show where they're looking at, so obviously pay attention to see where they're looking at. You don't need more than one guy paying attention to a single choke point. Unless you have a call out that there are multiple people coming through that choke point, there's no reason to have 2 or 3 people all looking in the same direction. Because if one dude slips by in a different direction and you don't see him, that second that he may have on you and your teammates can cost like either you your life or even all 3 or 2 or whatever of your teammates' lives. So you really want to try and make sure that you're looking in every possible direction in case they come there. Once you see your opponent, give your team the call out, let them know that that's where they're coming from. This is definitely, awareness is definitely a big deal, pretty much in all 3 game types. It's not just any one. If you are more of a spawn game type kind of player, like me, I'm very much a spawn game type player. Hardpoint, I think, is my best map, or my best game type. Though I have actually been leaning towards CTF recently. I've realized that I understand CTF very well, and I'm very good at getting those cutoffs. But Search and Destroy is my worst game type. It's the one I have to work on the most, and it actually requires the most amount of skill and patience and concentration and awareness, just everything, not just gun skill. There's very little gun skill that's involved in CTF or in S&D. I apologize, but that's my worst game type. I've always been a spawn game type kind of player. Even in spawn game types, your awareness matters. Let's say hardpoint, for example. If you have your team in the hardpoint, you don't need 2 or 3 people all looking in one direction. You want to try and cover every possible direction that they are going to come from. If you can do that, then you're pretty much set, because at least you know that if they're coming there, if they kill you, you know where they're coming from. You can give that call out to your teammates. A lot of people, and you'll notice it in League Play, and unfortunately I've even seen it while trying out free agents for my competitive team, Team Nerve. A lot of people don't have that awareness. They are not able to realize that there's already a teammate or 2 looking in that direction, they don't need to move over and look in that direction as well. They should rather look in a direction that no one is covering, because that could be a direction that the enemy team comes from. So awareness is definitely a very big deal. And not just which way you're looking and noticing which way that your team is looking. Another thing of awareness is paying attention to the spawns. A really big thing about Call of Duty and in competitive Call of Duty is spawns. If you can learn the spawns of the map or of that game type, being able to play competitive Call of Duty, you will increase your skill tremendously just by knowing where they should be spawning, based off where your team is positioned, based off where the hill is for a hard point. So that's a major thing. Now, CTF is the easiest one to learn spawns. It really is. I really highly recommend going back, watching Codcaster, because you can pull up the map and see all the arrows and notice where they spawn in relation to where your team is. It's very, very simple to do. I highly recommend you go do that, because once you understand kind of that spawning system, it makes CTF so much easier, just so beyond easy. Even in Hardpoint. Now, I will say in Hardpoint, it's a little bit more difficult learning the spawns, because each and every Hardpoint has a different spawn location. Now, there's a certain spawn location that has the biggest priority, but if you're blocking that spawn, there are secondary spawn locations for that hill. Regardless, there are multiple spawn locations for each hill, and every time the hill moves, it changes those spawn locations. So, I'd highly recommend that you go back into Codcaster mode again, bring up that map, see where all the arrows are at, and watch that depending on what hill, where the enemy spawns at. You can even start, once you start getting good at that and knowing where they're spawning at, start noticing what is blocking the spawn. Once you know each and every spawn location for the hill, you can start noticing that you or one of your teammates might be blocking one of those spawns, and what position are you in to block those spawns? Because that is a big deal as well, is that there are spawn block locations. And that's a major thing as well. If you are pushing a hill, try to get to some of those spawn blocking locations, because when you're pushing a hill, the last thing you want is for the enemy team that already has control of the hill to be spawning on the anchor. If there's a way that you can block their the closest spawn, do so, because then they're going to be spawning out, and it's going to make it much, much easier for you to push and take over the hill. Once you've managed to learn those spawns, the spawn blocks and everything, your game's going to improve. You're going to get a kill or two, and you're going to know where the enemy is going to be spawning, where they're going to be coming from. And that allows you to set up for those next set of kills. And like I said, your game is going to greatly improve just off of that awareness and learning where the spawns are, paying attention where your teammates are looking, all that kind of stuff. The next biggest thing, and I really feel like, even though awareness is the biggest thing, communication, which is the next one, is very key as well. Now, if you've managed to master your awareness, I'd highly recommend you start working on your communication skills, calling out to your teammates where the enemy's at, paying attention to your teammates' call-outs, that kind of stuff. I really feel like the difference between a AM team and either a top AM team or a pro team is communication. Being able to make those proper call-outs and knowing where the enemy is coming from, or even calling out where you've died, that kind of stuff, or where you spawned at. For me, when I play Hardpoint, I call out where I spawn at, because when my brother's anchoring, or when an anchor knows exactly what he's doing, if I call out where I'm spawning at, then the anchor should know where he's going to get pushed from once he's learned the spawns and knows how the spawning system works in Hardpoint. It's the same thing with CTF. I call out where I spawn in CTF. If I spawn in one area in CTF, that means that the enemy is coming from another area, and my team is able to know where that area is based off how I've spawned and where the enemy should be pushing. Beyond that, there's definitely picking your gunfights, and this is, I would say, probably like the third most important fundamental. The reason I say that is not every gunfight is going to be in your favor. You want to be able to pick a gunfight that you're going to win. Like I said, gun skill is probably the least important thing, because everyone's going to have very good gun skill. They're going to be on a very even level with you, if not have better gun skill than you. This is competitive Call of Duty, which means you're playing against some of the best Call of Duty players in the world. So if you manage to pick your gunfights and not just jump into everything, you should win more of your gunfights. Even with less gun skill, you can still win these. Picking good gunfights, make sure you're set up in a good position. Definitely a bad thing to do is just stand out in the open and try and shoot everything. If you can find a way to head glitch and show less of your body, do it, because it makes it harder for the enemy to kill you. Another good way of picking your gunfights is once you've mastered your awareness or your communication, you know where the enemy's going to come from, set up in a position that allows you to get multiple kills without actually dying. So, if you know that the enemy's, say, coming, let's say, here in CTF on Express, you know the enemy's coming from this admin building right here, don't stand directly in the open. Rather, get behind maybe one of the hedges and pick people off. That kind of thing. Guys, I appreciate it for y'all paying attention to my Call of Duty video here. I hope y'all kind of keep learning stuff. Please leave any comments in there. Anything you guys want to know more of or want to learn. I always like to take pointers, tips that I can improve on. Please leave a like if you guys like the video. Subscribe as well, because I'm going to keep having more and more videos come out, trying to help people improve and get better. Also, I'm going to make sure I post a link in the description box to my Twitter account. Leave me a follow, because I will be posting videos on my Twitter feed, so you guys can see whenever I have new videos up. And YouTube, guys, we'll see you all later.